Jen here from Lunar Spirit Wellbeing, and I'm joined with Marcus here today, who's kindly come along to share his experience with mental health. So, hello, Marcus.
Hello, hello.
Hello, how are you doing?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Good. So, briefly, could you share your story and part of your journey that and your experiences with mental health?
Oh, you got about 3 hours.
I know
So,
it's so complex, isn't it? It's never really like a
no.
short version.
Yeah, for me, it all started when I was about 9. Really, I just started out of nowhere, um, getting anxiety attacks, panic attacks. Um, didn't know what was happening. I'm talking back in the early '80s, so um, it was quite difficult for people to open up about their problems, I guess. And then it kind of developed into a food thing. I just didn't eat. I was just scared of eating. All my anxiety just led me to be scared of everything, really.
Okay.
Became food, then it became going out to like local shops, going out with friends, like anxiety attacks everywhere, to the point, when I was 15, 16, could hardly go out of the house. So that was the start of it all. And then as I got older, probably my 20s, found alcohol, found drugs, and self-medicated, I guess, to take the pain away. It was the only thing in the whole world that would take away my anxiety. I tried so many different things, and there wasn't a lot back then, to kind of conquer my anxiety, like eat healthy, and I was always fit anyway. Now, have exercised, but none of that kind of seemed to take the anxiety away. So it was alcohol that was my magic drug, really, and all the other stuff that goes with it. And I guess where I was quite shy and didn't really have much of a childhood, I kind of got a label as party boy, which felt good. So it was like party scene, got into DJing and was hairdressing at the time. So it was like a great fun lifestyle. Always last at parties, wanted it continued till 3 days later.
Yeah.
I didn't want anyone to go home, wanted to, it was always me that organised parties, and it was just my escape. I just couldn't sit with myself. I didn't like myself. I'd say I probably had like mild body dysmorphia. Took ages to get ready. I still didn't like myself. So yeah, there was many things, and then I think the biggest downfall was when I was probably about 18, 19. I had so many tests, physical tests like brain scans, body scans, and the consultant said, "There's nothing wrong with you. Get on with your life." So I just completely thought I was going crazy. So it kind of finished me off in a way. So I just kept to the drink and the drugs because it was the only thing that I could take it away from me, and I hated it. I wouldn't wish anxiety and depression and whatever on my worst enemy. Really wouldn't. It's just something that just doesn't go away. And I refrained from medication for many years. I didn't go on meds till I was about 25, 26, because I just wanted to conquer it on my own. And although I caved basically. One day I caved. I know I'm going to go to Harley Street in London and get this, this psychiatrist to sort me right out. And anyway, I caved and I went on meds, and they were my blessing, but also my demise, because they made me numb to any sort of feeling.
Okay, yeah, I get
I
that.
couldn't cry. I could laugh because I was drinking and using drugs, because that would make me laugh. But from a feeling point of view and an emotional point of view, they made me shut off from the world completely, and I became more risky behaviour. Didn't really give a shit about anyone probably more so being on them than off them. So after about a year of taking them, I started back on the drugs and the drink properly. And you're not supposed to mix the two. It's really not a good idea.
No, it's not.
They just don't work. So, and then I became like aggressive, and all different things started to manifest. So from 25 to probably 35, a good 10 years of active addiction, functioning, had a job. No one really knew for, well, they probably did. That's probably a lie. Probably a good 10 years of active addiction, but a functioning. And it was, I dealt with it. It wasn't really, until the end, it wasn't really a problem. I could get up for work. I could do normal things, which was good because I couldn't as a kid. I couldn't do what most people could do. So I was living, I guess for the first time, I was living like a proper life and having fun, making the most of it. Yeah. But then I suppose the last 2 years of my addiction was started drinking at like 8 a.m. with my cornflakes, drugs every day, trying to, I was just horrible life. In the end, they just stopped working. So I'd go and buy 200 bag of whatever, and nothing would happen. So I became quite within and quite depressed. And I finally admitted to my family about 35, I need help. So I didn't want to live, but I didn't want to die. I was scared of dying. I didn't want to live. I don't want to be here. But at the same time, I was too scared of doing anything. So I didn't go down the whole self-harm route, or I did think about suicide, but I didn't plan anything. Mm-hmm. Although I wanted to die, but I also wanted to live, because I always, somehow, whatever out there is out there, kept me saying to myself, what if one day you can get better? Mm-hmm. So I just basically was on my knees begging for help, and I went into rehab, and before that I tried loads of things. I tried 12-step programs and counselling, and no, I didn't try everything. There's a whole world out there. I didn't try everything, but I tried what was available to me. But I guess I wasn't done. I wasn't, a lot of people say about rock bottom, but there's always a new rock bottom for me. So probably didn't hit as rock bottom as I could, but I lost everything financially. I lost everything emotionally, spiritually, everything. I was just this object surviving every day. So it was Christmas time, and I begged my parents, I need help. Saw a psychiatrist. He finally diagnosed me after about from 9 to 35 with like maybe a personality disorder. He didn't want to commit to any sort of real diagnosis. It was anxiety with emotional personality disorder. And it was only because I pushed him for a diagnosis that he wanted to give me one. Yeah. Which I understand now, because a lot of people can be quite protective of their diagnosis in a way.
Yeah, well, it gives it meaning, doesn't it? Then sometimes, when you get that professional diagnosis, you can have it gives you meaning. It gives I don't know how to word that. It kind of gives you something to say. Oh, well, this is why I've been acting this way.
Yeah.
It gives a bit of
clarity. I guess it gave me an understanding, because before that I was one of these Google. I know, I'm going to Google my symptoms. Oh, jeez. Jesus Christ. A bit of advice, never do it, because do you know what? As human beings, we've probably all got these problems going on with us. Yeah. So, and he explained to me there's a very fine line between all these different diagnoses. So anyway, I got into rehab, and I really told myself, and it was a lot of self-talk, that this is my last chance. This has to work. That is not the life that I want to live. It's not the person who I thought I'd become. I never in a million years thought I'd become one of these people that we all judge. And I did. So I really kind of embraced it, and I found, not only did I find a way out and I got well, but I found that I loved, like really adored helping people. So after that, I thought about it for about 6 months, and then I decided to retrain as a therapist, counsellor, coach, whatever. And that was the best thing I ever did, because I was always looking for that void. There was always something missing with me, even as a kid, and I always felt different, always felt left out, always felt. But at the same time, I was quite popular. I wasn't bullied. I wasn't. It's a strange one, but there's void in me. Like I wasn't giving back in the world enough, and I think some people are made to help other people.
Yeah, I do agree. Yeah.
So I got well. Through medication, they gave me different medication for a while, but they didn't want me on it forever.
Yeah.
And I just embraced what they taught me. So it wasn't just about going in there and coming out well, because the world doesn't change just because you go to rehab, right?
Yeah.
And I just did what they told me. I kind of got I got rid of all my old acquaintances. I got a new phone. I just got rid of all the bad eggs in my life. Surrounded myself with people that I wanted to be around. Kind of repaired relationships with family and friends and people, just took a whole new, almost like two lives in one, really. So I've had the fun, the bad life, and then I've been lucky enough to have another life within this life. But definitely the best thing I ever did was retrain and start helping other people. These days, I get my moments. Probably I have to keep an eye on my self-care, but I don't have anxiety anymore. I don't have anything like that anymore. I don't have panic attacks or what I went through as a kid, or I haven't touched a drink or a drug for a long time. I have the occasional drink occasionally, but nothing to write home about. It just doesn't affect me anymore.
Yeah. Would you say the substance misuse came as a result of the mental health conditions that weren't dealt with?
Absolutely.
Together.
Yeah, because where I was like from 9 till about 25, I was just scared of everything, Jen. I was just like, if you gave me paracetamol, I'd be scared of taking it. So I withheld from the drug scene for a very, very long time. I even didn't really like drinking a lot because I didn't like the way it made me feel, because I always wanted to be in control, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I meant about the demise when I started taking antidepressants. I didn't care anymore. So my fear of taking anything went out the window.
Right.
So when I got offered my first line of cocaine or whatever, I was like, oh, I'll do it. But if I wasn't on antidepressants, I would have never have done it. Okay. Because my fear in me was too strong to take any drugs, and I was very, very anti-drugs at the time. But that carefree attitude when I started taking medication was, like I said, my demise, but also my making, in a way. And people ask a lot, would you change it? And would you, because you know the madness of, it's so destructive. I can't even explain, and there's no point explaining the destruction. Everyone knows what people are like when that. So no, I don't regret it, because I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more about them and what you did to recover. So you went to rehab, and then tell me.
I went to rehab. Then I saw a therapist for about a year.
Yeah.
I went to a few support groups. I tried 12 steps for about various different ones, because I found them, unpopular opinion, but for me, they keep you in a mode that I don't want to be in anymore. They keep you, standing up every day for 4 years, telling everyone that you're an addict or you're this or you're that. I wanted more than that.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it helps lots of people. It helped me for 4 or 5 years. Can't deny that at all. But I wanted a different life. I didn't really want to miss. I found it quite negative and quite draining, especially all the politics and all that kind of stuff. So I found more the personal development side of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I'm with you on that one. The 12 steps served a purpose for me, most definitely. But then I found like my own way, and I didn't want to be just identified as an addict for the rest of my life, because I feel that I wasn't addicted to drugs and alcohol. I was addicted to escaping my life because of the way I felt inside. And as soon as
it wouldn't matter.
Relationship itself, I didn't need to escape, so I didn't need to use drink or drugs.
Exactly, and it to me, it wasn't just drinking drugs. That was just probably the most destructive.
Yeah.
But there was the sex. There was the putting myself in situations that I wouldn't dream of putting myself in normally, and mixing with people that I wouldn't necessarily like dangerous situations. There was the spending money. There was the it was my whole life was escapism.
Behavior, isn't it? It all sort of comes down. Addictions can take on many forms. Workaholics who can take on addicted to porn, addicted to sex, to dangerous behaviors, shopping, eating. There's such addiction spreads far and wide.
For me, it wasn't. Yeah, it was across the board, and I say it to this day. I've told you, if I open a packet of wine gums, I can't just have one. I'll finish the whole packet.
Yeah.
Or likewise with a packet of biscuits. But do you know what? That's not going to destruct my life in a way that drugs and drink would.
No.
Or risky behaviour would. Or I've kind of adapted to, that's just us. A lot of people have that. I think if everyone's honest, they've all got some sort of addiction. I think, especially things like mobile phones now, if you ask someone to take away the mobile phone for a week, they couldn't do it.
Yeah. That's a big one, isn't it?
Makeup. You tell most girls, you know what, you're not allowed to wear your makeup for 5 years. How many would cope?
Yeah.
In reality, that's an addiction, right?
Well, it could be seen as that. Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah.
We've all got our things, but I think when you start using drink and drugs as an escapism, it's a very downward spiral.
Nothing good comes from that at all.
No. And you don't think it's going to happen to you, but it can genuinely happen to everyone, and it doesn't discriminate, There's a lot of famous people have it, a lot of rich people have it, a lot of poor people have it. It just doesn't discriminate.
It can get you a time of life as well.
I think for me, the
40 odd years, and then you've developed an alcoholic addiction, or being destructive.
And I think I found the self-development a lot more me rather than the 12-step rooms, because I just found as well, it was like they'd sort out the drink and drugs, for example, and their other behaviour was just as bad. Everyone was going out with everyone, and toxic relationships were still there. It was just, I guess without sounding, I don't know, I just wanted more. I wanted more, and I knew it was out there, and I found it. But in the work I do, if 12-step works for you, that works for you. Great, do it. But I've transferred from a sponsor to speaking to a mate if I'm in trouble. To me, that's as good as a sponsor.
Different things work for different people, don't they?
So
finding what works for each individual, I think.
Yeah. It might be a mix. For me, it was a mix. I did that for 4 or 5 years and it worked. and it gave me probably a good foundation.
Mm-hmm.
But then I guess I grew different, and I grew out of it, and wanted different. I wanted a lot more positivity in my life.
Yeah.
So I found the whole self-development thing, and just being around nicer people, I guess. Because you find in addiction, you're just knocking around with not the nicest people in the world.
I know. I've met some amazing people in recovery, and still friends with them now. That if it weren't for them, I wouldn't I wouldn't have met them. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's like in life, isn't it? There's a mixture of people everywhere.
Absolutely. And like I said, I'm not knocking that whole circle of people. It's just for me.
Yeah, that's your experience with it.
That was my experience, and also I just wanted a different take on it.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I do things that help me, but generally the three things that probably helped me were, the first was obviously a good solid medical support, was rehab, counsellor, then the 12 steps. Then now I've got a tool bag of stuff so yeah, recovery rocks.
It does. Yeah, and recovery is possible from absolutely anything. I think.
Yeah, I totally believe that.
I totally believe that. And life after recovery is amazing. I mean, and it shapes it into the person that you are today. Without those experiences, you wouldn't be who you are now. And I think as coaches and therapists, to have experienced that firsthand and then come out the other side of that gives you a lot more value that you can give to the people that you're coaching. So what sort of coaching do you do then, Marcus? What do you do? Who do you help?
So I started off down the addiction route, helping fellow addicts, fellow people that suffer from addiction, because obviously it was, at the time, it was new to me and quite close to my heart, and I'd done it, so I believed in it and I could help other people. So I started off working in the rehab that I was in, voluntary, while I was doing my studies. Then I went to a rehab for men who were homeless or just come out of prison. Mm-hmm. Then I went to criminal justice system, worked in prisons and that kind of stuff. But it was quite heavy stuff. So I in the end, and it was quite political as well, unfortunately. Yeah. So I kind of made the decision to break out of that, because my whole life was just bloody addiction. So I kind of got more into kind of anxiety, relationships. Loved helping relationships. Loved helping people realise their true potential in relationships. What else did I do? Yeah, they're the kind of main two. The addictions and relationships were my two favourites. But I've backed off a little bit from addictions, but obviously it's still close to my heart, and I'll help anyone that's got, wants to help. But I think it's important to diversify, because even in addiction we had destructive relationships, right? So we're very qualified to tell people or help people kind of with their own relationships.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's loads of things I'm interested in, loads of things I love to learn. I never stop learning, and I think it's a journey. For anyone in recovery, it's a journey. If you have setbacks, you have setbacks. Just pick yourself up and crack on with it.
So I like to raise awareness around men's mental health as well, because I know it's more and more in the media now, and it's more there are a lot more ways that men can kind of speak up about mental health, because it was always a bit of a stigma around it, wasn't there, before, where there weren't very many men seeking help, and the suicide rate is the highest in men, sort of middle-aged men. So I like to do work around men's mental health as well. And do you have a group that you have for men's mental health? Am I right?
Yes, I do. So I set up a group about a year ago, because when I worked in the charity sector. So I worked for Mind for a little while, and what I found was there's a lot of like mental health awareness companies, but in reality, there's no real frontline immediate help. It's always like a waiting list, or it's always, oh, they signpost you, or oh yeah, you can't go to this place, or you got to go to that place, and then they tell you, oh no, you got to go to this place, you got to go. So simply, I just set up this group called Men Too, and following the Me Too movement, and ripped that off. And so we basically, the whole concept is designed for men just to talk about anything they like. No kind of agenda. There's no structure as such. There's like a little bit, like, for example, we ask the guys how they're feeling by using one word. So they might say, I'm feeling anxious this week, or I'm feeling really good this week, or whatever. So that we do things like that, but we're not what we call kind of a structured kind of meeting group, or it's just a place to share your thoughts. And I actually asked the guys to come up with their own rules and regulations, so they did that because it's their group.
Yeah.
So they love it, and we got a real diverse group from ex-policemen to unemployed, to we've got from 25 to 75-year-olds, and you don't have to have a specific mental health problem. You can just come and say you've had a really shit week.
Yeah, that's the thing. You don't have to have a diagnosis, do you, to look after and be aware of your mental well-being. You don't need like a medical diagnosis. You can do things to look after your mental health, like prevention rather than cure is always a thing that I bang on about.
Christ,
yeah, it's, you know.
I wish I'd have done that.
Yeah. Well, I never used to, but now it's, you know, do these things on a daily basis. Look after your mental well-being, look after your physical well-being, look after your spiritual well-being on a daily basis, and do these things that are going to make you feel good.
So I think you're right with the men thing. It's, you know, when I grew up, it was my dad was very much, men don't have emotions, men don't cry, men don't talk about the problems. You just get on with it. And my experience back in the 80s was very much that, from doctors as well. You know, there's nothing wrong with you. Just crack on with your life, and that made me shut up.
Yeah.
Didn't tell anyone my problems, because that's what you're ingrained into you as a kid. And even, you know, schools, you know, everything's critical. We're criticised from such a young age. You know, even your school reports, oh, Jen's really good, but she doesn't do this, or she doesn't do that. She could do better, or Marcus could do better at this, or Marcus could do better at that. It's just like, do you know what I mean? It's I don't know. I think the world needs to change this whole dynamic of education and the way we talk to people.
We talk competition and comparison from day dot, really, aren't we? In schools, because we're measured by a score out of whatever on tests, and we're testing our intelligence, and it's not even looking at the bigger picture of a person.
Yeah, you're not focused on people's strengths.
The emotional side of a human being rather than just the academic side. Yeah,
I mean, to the point where there was one, I think I was about, when was work experience? When you're about 15, right? 14, 15. And they put, I think this is when computers just came out back in the 80s. So we had this, and they put in,
now, mate.
you had to put in this data or what you like doing, and it comes out with your ideal job, right?
Oh God, right, yeah, I remember
Mine,
that.
do you remember that?
Yeah.
Right.
That's
So,
weird. I don't remember what it was.
oh God, mine was, you'd never guess it in a million years, and it made me just absolutely disbelieve the system, because it came out as stunt man,
Yeah.
and I was the most anxious, fearful, scared of everything kid you'll ever meet in your life.
Oh my days.
So it's just crap. Instead of listening to the children, what do you want to do in life? We're telling them computer says this, computer says that.
Computer
Focus
says
on their
no.
strengths. That's what I say. Yeah, computer says. My computer said no.
My computer's not
I
today.
was quite pleased. Obviously, being a boy, and I was quite pleased, and I lied. To my mates, young, I do this when I'm older. But inside, I was thinking, what a load of shit. I'm
Yeah.
scared of everything.
Oh, brilliant. So, what advice then would you give to somebody who is suffering now?
I'd say never give up. Never give up hope. The only thing I believe to this day really that's kept me going, and probably still keeps me going, is the question: what if? What if? What if? What if there's an amazing life after this? If I keep going, if I keep looking, and I keep growing, you're going to get your down days. You're going to get your down weeks where you just think, you say, never going to come out of this. I'm never going to get better, but you will. And sometimes it's accepting pigeon steps is the way forward. Because it is, some people have had illnesses for many, many years, and it's not going to go away overnight. Mm-hmm. It takes time and patience. I find humour and taking the power out of this stuff with humour very, very powerful. And an acceptance that I've got it, or I've got issues probably maybe throughout my life, might have ups and downs at different periods. But I find that acceptance and humour took the power out of my illness a lot, a hell of a lot.
Acceptance.
Because you don't, yeah. And I stopped focusing on it so much, because when you focus on something, that's where your energy goes, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So I tried not to focus on it too much, but be aware that if I'm feeling a bit fragile, I need to take a bit of self-care. I need to go on holiday, or I need a bit of downtime. But I think my biggest piece of advice would be just have a bit of hope, and yeah, the hope's probably the biggest. Don't give up, and just keep looking, because when people say to me they've tried everything, you really haven't tried everything. When it comes down to it, it's a whole wide world of help out there, and it's being resourceful, because there's so many resources now. And it's tapping into what works for you. I believe it's no different to prescribing a tablet. This works for you, or like for you, Jen, antibiotics might work for you and they might not work for me. And it's no different with finding something that works for your mental health. It could be, it could be going to Tibet and spending a month with the monks. It could be coming to see you for a week. It could be doing one of my courses for a week. Whatever. Yeah. There's a load more resources out there. So just keep trying and keep hope. They're my two biggest.
Yeah. That's brilliant advice. And Jake, I love to laugh. I laugh at myself so much.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to be. That's another massive one. There's a lot to be said for laughter therapy. I don't know if you've ever tried it, but it's massive. It's huge.
Well, I've not tried an actual class.
You'd love it. You should train in it. You'd be brilliant at it.
You know me though, when I get the giggles.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's life should be. There are times. There are dark times. There is a time to be serious, and there's time to be quiet and take things in. but I am a true believer in laughing and taking life by the balls and having a great time.
I think the best film I've ever watched in relation to that. Have you seen Patch Adams?
No, I'm not a good one to talk about films.
Okay, right. You must watch. This is a film for everyone
Yeah.
to watch. How powerful. You know the saying, laughter's the best medicine?
Yeah.
This film is where that saying came from, right? So you must know Robin Williams.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. So he's the lead in it, and it's a true story. So you got to watch Patch Adams. It's where the saying, laughter is the best medicine came from.
Ah, okay. I'm going to watch that over the weekend then.
It's absolutely fantastic. And that man fought. I'd love to go and meet him because he lives in America somewhere. Basically, he made people laugh in hospitals and they got better quicker.
Wow.
And they tried to kick him out of medical school. And he won the court case for staying in medical school. So I'm giving the film away now.
Oh, no, yeah. Cheers for the spoiler.
Spoiler alert, yeah. But it showed he went to like cancer wards and dressed as a clown with the kids wards, and they got better quicker than they did just by moping around.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Release those endorphins. Laughter.
Exactly.
Yeah. And if you can't laugh at yourself, God, you know.
Well, if you can't laugh at yourself, don't laugh at other people.
Well, no, I don't. No, don't do that. No, I don't laugh at other people. I just laugh at myself. Thank you so much, Marcus. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed.
Pleasure. I hope it gives someone a bit of hope and it's useful because you do brilliant work. So if we can get a message out to people, all the better.
Well, thanks so much. Take care. Bye.
See ya. Bye.